The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Of course, I'm your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So wanted to come on today really quickly and talk to you guys about a topic that just kind of popped in my head randomly. So I just decided to spit it out. And I was thinking about some of the concerns that people have been voicing over the last few days. And I wanted to rank them. And I want you to rank them. So I've got 5 concerns. And we're going to put them in order. We're going to remove the Jaden Daniels concern from the equation, because obviously that goes straight to the top of the list. And you probably could, skip 1,000 spaces before you get to number 2. So we're not even going to include that in this conversation. There are a number of things that we probably haven't liked that we've seen from this team over the first 2 weeks of the season. Some minor, others not so much. Whatever the case may be, they're concerns nonetheless. So I wanted to give you 5 concerns and have you rank them. I'm going to rank them as well. We're going to talk about them. Okay? So here are the 5 concerns. 1, lack of turnover production. 2, game management. 3, John Bates's injury. 4, rookie right tackle Josh Connolly Jr.'s early season struggles. 5, place kicker Matt Gay's struggles. I'll repeat these 5 once again. 1, lack of turnover production. 2, game management. 3, John Bates, tight end John Bates's injury. 4, rookie right tackle Josh Connolly Jr.'s early season struggles. 5, place kicker Matt Gay's struggles. Those are your 5 struggles, or 5 concerns, rather, to start off this conversation. And you can start listing them down in the comment section if you so choose. For those of you watching this on playback, please drop it down in the comment section. Really want to see what you guys have to say and how you feel about these 5 concerns and what's the order of priority for you with these concerns. All right. So for me personally, I'm going to list mine in numerical order. And I'm going to start with number 5, work my way up to the one that I think is the most important. So with that said, let's start with number 5 on my list. And that's rookie right tackle Josh Connolly Jr.'s early season struggles. I'm not overly concerned about this. Am I concerned? Tiny, teeny little bit. I was hoping to see him, be a little bit better. One of the things that Lionel Willingham said that he caught some flack for when he was out at the park early on in the process was that Josh Connolly Jr. was struggling with his movements. And one of the things he was supposed to be really good with is his quickness, his athleticism, that sort of thing. We all just assumed it was his core strength that would be an issue early on, but movement-wise, he'd be able to move his feet, stay in front of people. That wouldn't be that big of an issue. He hasn't really been able to stay in front of people. And his hand placement isn't great. And I still think he's going to be fine because, again, he's going up against some of the best that the league has to offer. It's not been, this gradual buildup for him. They just threw him right in the fire. And I'm not talking about they as in the team, Literally, the league threw him into the fire. All they did, they being the Commanders, all the staff did was they started him, as you would assume a first-round pick should be starting. All they did was their job, which was to make sure he was ready to start. They put him in the starting lineup, and the league said, well, since you're starting a rookie right tackle, here you go. Take Brian Burns and Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau in week 1. And then week 2, get you some Micah Parsons, get you some Rashawn Gary. And then week 3, get you some Max Crosby. Week 4, get you some Jalen Walker and some Pierce Jr. and some Gumby. Here you go. Figure his shit out. He probably caught a break because Khalil Mack, he suffered a serious injury on Monday night. Probably won't see him in week 5, but this was a brutal start for the young fella. And in my mind, he'll only get better from this experience. Now, I will say that the staff can do a better job, just like they did last year with Andrew Wiley and Brandon Coleman. They can do a better job of helping a young fella out. I've seen too many times where they've left him on an island to fend for himself, like, hey, figure it out. And that can't be your approach when he's going up against Micah Parsons. And he won, a few of those battles, but he's going to lose more than he wins. And all it takes is for 1 or 2 losses to show up for them to be huge in the outcome of the game. I think the staff has to do a better job of running the football, taking some of that pressure off of him, helping him, chips, double teams, etc., and really putting him in a much more advantageous position to succeed. But I'm not overly concerned with his early season struggles because of the level of competition. Had he been coming out here going up against the Little Sisters of the Poor and he was struggling, then I would have had a bit more issue with this. As the season progresses, I expect him to get better. And eventually, I don't think we'll be having these conversations about Josh Connolly Jr. But, right now, 2 weeks in, yeah, he's had somewhat of a struggle to start the season off. He's given up pressures and sacks in each of the first 2 weeks. Again, elite competition in front of him. I don't want to make a ton of excuses, but this is to be expected. I knew there was going to be some sort of, struggle for him, especially with the early season schedule with the guys he was going to go up against. It's their job to minimize his struggles by helping him. And then he needs to continue to get better, put in the film study, put in the work. And I think he'll continue to do that. This baptism by fire is something that I expected. So I'm not really tripping, right? So that's number 5 for me. Checking in at number 4 is the lack of turnover production. This is a massive problem for me because how long can you sustain not turning the football over? The Commanders are currently one of 6 teams in the league that haven't produced a turnover through the first 6 weeks of the season. Okay. There are 32 teams in the league, and we're one of 6. So 26 teams in the league have at least produced 1 turnover in the first 2 weeks. The Commanders are one of 6 teams that haven't produced a single turnover. And frankly, we haven't been close. I know Quan Martin had a pick, and that was negated due to a penalty. That's as close as we've come. Russell Wilson fumbling. We were never close to recovering that fumble. Never. It's as many Commanders were there. Russell Wilson clearly had the beat on that fumble. We never were close to recovering that thing. So as far as I'm concerned, we haven't even really been close, even though Quan had his hands on one, right? The big issue I have is that you continue to go down this path of not producing turnovers. Eventually, you're going to turn it over yourself. It's just inevitable, right? Of the 6 teams that I just mentioned to you who haven't produced a turnover, 4 of the 6 are winless. 4 of the 6 teams are winless. The Cleveland Browns, 0-2. The Kansas City Chiefs, 0-2. The New York Jets, 0-2. The Carolina Panthers, 0-2. The only teams The only two that aren't winless, that haven't produced a turnover, are the 2-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the 1-1 Washington Commanders. You know why those two teams aren't winless right now? Because they haven't turned it over themselves. The other 4 teams have all turned the football over. And so they're minus in the plus minus turnover differential category. And that's why they're 0-2. If the Chiefs don't throw that interception down by the goal line against Philadelphia, they probably win that game. But that's what happens when you don't produce turnovers and you give it away, right? How long can we keep this up without actually giving it away ourselves? We got to start producing some turnovers. I made jokes about it being a myth and something that we passed down, like a fable to our great-great-grands and our, great-grands about how we used to, we've seen a turnover before back in my day, right? But seriously, all jokes aside, we got to start forcing some turnovers here, man. It's going to get dark for us real quick if we can't start forcing teams to turn the football over. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. We just got to find a way to be better and hope that we continue to take care of the football all the while, right? So lack of turnover production is number 4 for me, personally. Moving on to number 3, game management. Now we start to get into things that are costing you points on the scoreboard, and that's when shit gets real, right? When we can talk about things that could affect the game, that's one thing. Now we're talking about things that actually are affecting the game and taking points off of the scoreboard. That's a problem. This is something that we didn't have an issue with a season ago. Game management wasn't an issue. It wasn't something that we found ourselves talking about this team in a negative light about. As a matter of fact, when we talked about game management and preparation and coaching, we lauded and praised this staff last year for being one step ahead of the opposition. Raheem Morris mangled the clock. Matt Eberflus backed his players up before the Washington walk-off, a.k.a. Noah's Ark, a.k.a. the Bear Trap. He backed his players up, gave us a free 12 yards, right? He didn't understand the game management aspect, right? We've seen other teams mangle those situations. Meanwhile, our guys have been on top of it. Last year, we found a ton of ways to do things. Well, this ain't last year. It's a new year. And we expected them to pick right up where they left off. Well, that hasn't happened. They've regressed in that regard. But I'm just hoping that it's one of those temporary things that everyone is kind of getting their traction and footing as this season gets underway. And it's not just, everyone getting acclimated from a player standpoint, from an officiating standpoint, etc. Also, the coaches have to get acclimated. Well, that acclimation period is over now. You had 2 weeks. You fumbled the bag immensely the first 2 weeks. You've been awful managing the game, managing the clock, end of half situations, all of it. Timeouts, right? We've blown through timeouts each of the first 2 weeks of the season, especially in the second half, which is a problem for me. We've mangled the end of first half clock 2 weeks in a row, taking points off the board in both instances, right? Now, the first one, that was clearly on the staff. I'm putting all of that on the staff. The last week, Matt Gay still needs to make the damn kick. But they could have gotten him closer, knowing his struggles. They could have gotten his ass closer. They were way too confident in his ability to make a 50-plus yard field goal. I'm not blaming them for being confident in him. If he can't make a kick, then we need to get his ass out of here. But there was no sense of urgency last week. There was no threat to score a touchdown. They were too content with a field goal. That doesn't sit well with me because last year, that wasn't how we rolled. Last year, we were always in attack mode, looking to score touchdowns, not looking to settle for field goals. We were way too comfortable on the road in a hostile environment with 3 timeouts to our name, with plenty of time. We came out of the 2-minute warning basically at midfield, and we were too content with settling for a 50-plus yard field goal. That was pure insanity. The game management has been disgusting to start the season off. I know they're better. I expect better. And I'm going to assume that it's going to be better moving forward. But it's costing us points. It's costing us opportunities. And it's putting us behind the 8 ball in late game situations. You don't know what the score is going to be late in the game. You need all of your timeouts. If that game against Green Bay had gotten close, we had already squandered a timeout in the second half already. We weren't in a position to be able to stop the clock 3 times and do the things that you need to do to try to repossess the football. We'd already squandered that opportunity. They got to get their act together. Get this shit on the same page and get this team going the way that we know they're capable of playing. And it starts with the coaching staff. Game management has to be better. That's my number 3. You then go to number 2. And it's place kicker Matt Gay's struggles. Again, we're talking about points being removed from the scoreboard or never being placed on it at all. And those are game-altering plays when you miss field goals. Again, I just did Commanders Nightly News episode where I talked about watching football over the weekend, seeing kickers just ridiculous accuracy from 50-plus yards away, making it look like child's play. Meanwhile, our kicker can't make a 48-yard field goal or anything further than that. We're watching guys off the street come in 5 of 5, including a 54-yarder to help his team win a game. We're watching Jake Elliott get his groove back in Philadelphia, 58-yarders, no problem. That shit's got 10 more yards of distance on it if it needs to have it. We know Harrison Butker is one of the best kickers in the league. He's knocking them home from 59 and 60. We watched the Cowboys' Brandon Aubrey. We know he's a weapon. We've talked about him as a weapon. They showcased just how big of a weapon he actually truly is on Sunday with them settling for a 64-yard field goal to go to overtime and then a 60-yard field goal to win it. Pure insanity, right? He's different. He's not the standard, okay? You're hoping to just have a kicker that can make a 55-yard field goal. Well, there are plenty of them. I watched Daniel Carlson of the Vegas Raiders bang one home from 56 last night. The Chargers kicker has only missed 6 career field goals in his first 100 attempts. Trust me, plenty of those kicks were of 50 yards or more. It's getting old. Trotting Matt Gay out on the field and having zero confidence that he's going to make the kick. I'm not even sure if he's going to make a 49-yard kick right now. I'm not even confident that he's going to make a 48-yard kick right now. My confidence level is extremely low in Matt Gay. And it's not just because he started the season off 1 of 3. We've been talking about this man in the preseason. He missed 3 or 4 kicks in the preseason. That's why we came into the season somewhat uneasy about him to begin with. Whatever the case may be for Matt Gay, here's what we know. They're not bringing in any competition right now. They're not panicking. He's 1 of 3 on the season. They're going to give him some time. That's what it appears to be. And I don't think this is directly correlated to the money, although one could argue that last year, Cade York struggled in his debut against Tampa Bay. I think he missed 2 kicks in that game. They had a pick attached to him, and they moved on from him very quickly to reacquire their pick. I'm not saying that the money isn't factored into the decision-making process here, because I believe it is. They're tied to him a little bit more so because of what they've already guaranteed him from a salary standpoint. I mean, this is the same group that didn't want to pay Brian Robinson Jr. $3.2 million. So let's not kid ourselves thinking that they don't view $4 million as a lot of money, because they do. But also, they got to understand that if this guy can't be more consistent, You can't have Super Bowl aspirations with a field goal kicker you don't trust from 50 yards and beyond. Not in this climate in the NFL. Not with the way kickers are making 55, 56, 58 yarders like they're nothing. You can't have a kicker that you don't trust putting out on the field for a 53-yard field goal. You can't win a Super Bowl if you don't have a kicker that you trust to put out on the field for a 54-yard field goal. Right now, we don't have a kicker we can trust. So something either needs to be done or Matt Gay needs to get his ass in gear. One or the other. I'm hoping that we can just get him to correct, because clearly he has the distance. He has the distance. He can make a 58-yard field goal. He's done it before. And we've seen him kick the ball this year where it's plenty of distance. Just wasn't accurate. Either he needs to get his act together or they got to bring in some competition. Because, again, missing long distance kicks are twofold. One, you don't put points on the board and you crush whatever momentum you were building on that particular drive. And two, you give up tremendous field position when you miss a long field goal. And, again, the momentum piece is massive. This is a massive concern for me right now because in the current state that we're in right now, whether it's Marcus Mariota or Jaden Daniels moving forward, whatever the case may be, we're going to play in close games this year. Until we see this offense ratcheted up and turn back into the machine, the well-oiled machine it was last year, we got to assume that we'll be playing in close football games. And even when the offense was really good last year, we still played in a bunch of close games. Well, the competition is stiffer this year. You've seen the Lions. You see what they're capable of. Yeah, the Chiefs are 0-2. Nobody thinks that we're going to get that version of the Chiefs because Xavier Worthy will be healthy. Rashid Rice will be off of suspension by the time we see them. We won't get the same version of the Chiefs that the Eagles just saw. The Chargers are a serious Super Bowl contending team. The schedule is tougher. Denver's nothing to scoff at. Seattle's a good football team. These are all teams that are on the schedule. You're not going to blow these teams out. It may come down to a field goal. It may come down to 3 field goals being made for your kicker and him being 3 of 3. It may come down to every single point mattering and making a difference. You can't have your kicker going 1 of 3 in a big game. I don't know what the outcome of the Green Bay game would have been. We probably still would have gotten our teeth kicked in. We didn't play well. But you know what didn't help our cause and didn't give us a fighting chance? Those 2 missed field goals. This is number 2 on my list. And then lastly, checking in at number 1, John Bates' injury. The reason why John Bates' injury is such a big deal for me is, and I hope you guys caught the JP Finley interview he just put out. I think that's a good listen for anybody that, wants insight into John Bates, his mentality, the injury. I don't think it's super serious, but I don't think he's playing this week and possibly next week either. But he's such an integral part of what we want to do and who we want to be. DQ has talked about over the last 2 weeks ad nauseum, multiple times at the press conference about identity, establishing who we are, play style, all of these things he's mentioned numerous times. Play style in particular. I got to see the play style. I want to see guys playing hard, physically, fast, etc. He talks about play style all the time, right? We got to nail that. We got to nail the play style. Nobody on this team embodies play style more than John damn Bates. John Bates impacts winning on a scale that you can't even measure. There's no numerical data out there that states just how important John Bates is, but we all know. We all know. John Bates is like a 6th offensive lineman on the field. You want to help Josh Connolly Jr.? The best way to do that is with John Bates. He's not present right now. You want to run the football? The best way to do that is to run behind wherever 87 is. He's not available right now. You want to take somebody and put their dick in the dirt? John Bates is the man for the job. He's not available right now. He sets a tone for this team. He is one of the guys that is a powerful cog in the engine and machine that is this offense. I look at John Bates and I say, can we still be the same team on the ground running the football without him? I'm not sure. We'll see what Ben Sinnott is all about. We'll see what Kosa Yankov is all about. But we know those guys aren't John Bates. There's only one John Bates. Can they get the job done? We'll see. I don't expect them to block 2 guys on one play. I don't expect them to be pancaking guys. I don't expect them to be taking linebackers and physically creating a brand new line of scrimmage or 2 yards of space for the running back to cut off of his block. I don't expect those things to take place. But can they wall off a defender? Can they get in the way? Can they be productive in the role that they're being asked to fill? Sure. But there's levels to this, as I always tell you. And John Bates' ability in the run game, in the pass game, as a protector, his ability to establish an identity. We want to run the ball more. I expect us to run it more against Vegas. It sucks not having John Bates if he can't go this week, which I don't think he will. Because you know there's an advantage, a true advantage you have when 87's on the field and he's blocking. You have an advantage. Whether it's a safety, whether it's a linebacker, hell, whether it's a defensive end, I really don't give a shit. John Bates is going to block their ass. Well, that is being removed right now from this offense. And that's a tough guy to replace. He may be irreplaceable in that regard. And I go back to play style and identity. And if you're looking for someone to establish that, look no further than John Bates. So I can't help but think that John Bates's 9 snaps on Thursday night had a big, hand in our inability to protect Jaden. I can't give them the crutch of not running the football because Bates wasn't available. They weren't running it before he got hurt. So can't give them that crutch. The plan was never to run the football unless we got up on the Packers. That's what it felt like going in. But protecting Jaden is a different issue onto itself. And with a healthy Bates, I'd like to think that the protection would have been a lot better. But that's no here nor there. We got to survive without him. I think we can, and we will. But it's going to be tough. He impacts winning in a way that very few on this roster do. That's a tough one for me. So, to me, the number one concern right now, and again, this could be minor. He could be out for just 1 week and be back next week and be fine the rest of the season. They're not going to rush him back. And this is something that they don't want to linger. And so he may miss 2 to 4 weeks. Groin injuries obviously vary in the significance of the injury, right? So how mild or major of a strain this is will determine the length of his departure from the lineup. So Bates's injury to me tops this list because of what he means to this offense, what he means to this football team, how he plays, and how that's infectious to the rest of the team. We're going to miss John Bates, right? So I see in the comment section, you guys said we just worked out Preston Smith. That's cool. I mean, some of y'all are acting as if Preston Smith is the 14 Preston Smith we drafted or something. Preston Smith is probably an upgrade over Jalen Holmes. He's definitely an upgrade over, Javonte John Baptiste. I don't have any issues with bringing in Preston Smith, but there were other guys available that would probably be, better fits at this point of their careers. Preston Smith is another old NFL football player. We could have gotten a younger player that can do a lot of the things that Preston Smith can do, but they seem to want to opt for veteran players as opposed to younger guys. Okay, I get it. I'm cool if they bring Preston Smith back. I'm okay with that. We can use the depth on the defensive line. He's going to help you stop the run. He's going to be physical. He's not getting to the quarterback, but neither was Dietrich Wise either, right? So it's not like Preston Smith is that much different from Dietrich. I just know Dietrich hustled at a different level too, though. And I think Dietrich was a heady football player. I don't know how smart of a football player Preston Smith is in terms of some of the things we saw Dietrich do, right? But Preston Smith still has some football left in him. And if they decide to go that route, they're going to work him out. If they like what they see, they're probably going to sign him to the practice squad, would be my guess. And then you go from there. We need the depth on the defensive line. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You removed Jalen Holmes from the practice squad. You probably need to replace him with someone else on that D-line. And a veteran like Preston Smith makes a ton of sense. But I talked about, DeMarcus Walker is a guy that could have been an option, still available, younger than Preston Smith, just as physical as he is. Probably going to give you more presence as someone that can get to the quarterback, but definitely going to stop the run. Again, I'm not as excited as some of you seem to be in the comment section. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. Like, some of y'all are really excited. Like, Preston Smith is going to really come in here and change the game. I don't know about all of that at this point of his career. But again, I wouldn't be upset at the depth. That's all he would provide for us, is another body that could come in there in the event of an injury or something of that ilk. So we'll see what they decide to do. Clearly, they're interested in bringing in more depth on the defensive line, as they should be, because Dietrich Wise's loss is a big one for sure. Let's get a word from our sponsor of this stream, Sleeper. We'll come back on the other side and we'll talk about what you guys have to say in the comment section. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat in the games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips. Play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper. All right, so let's get to the comment section. I see some of y'all talking about I'm tweaking. No, I'm not tweaking. Y'all are tweaking for thinking that Preston Smith is going to come in here and be a game changer or something. Like, hey, y'all are funny. Tyreek Stroman, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Tyreek Stroman writes, this feels like an 0-2 conversation. The sky isn't falling. It's week 2. We're 1-1. Absolutely. Absolutely. This isn't an 0-2 conversation. I've already had conversations with you guys telling you that the sky isn't falling. But they're like, what we're not going to do is bury our head in the sand because we're 1-1 and not 0-2. Like, there are still real concerns here that need to be discussed. You can still do those same things and not be gloom and doom, right? Like you don't have to be one end of the spectrum or the other. I talk about this all the time with this fan base. It's either all or nothing. Either you're all in or you're all out. You're happy as can be, or you're doom and gloom and this team sucks and here we go again. There is a middle ground, right? There is a happy medium that you can find. We can talk about concerns that we have at 1-1 and not wait till we're 1-2 or 1-3 to start having these conversations. You can do both. This doesn't have to be an 0-2 conversation because we've got injuries. We've got a place kicker that can't make 50-yard field goals because Josh Conley Jr. is off to a rough start. Like, we can have those conversations at 1-1. You don't have to be 0-2 to have real conversations about your team. We could have been still having these same conversations at 2-0 because although we won some games, there's still concerns. So the sky isn't falling. I agree. I've said that to the fan base many times. We're 1-1. Absolutely. I told you that I expect us to play better on Sunday. I've chalked up some of the struggles of this team to Thursday night behavior. So you're preaching to the choir, but this is not an 0-2 conversation. This is a we have concerns conversation. There are more concerns that I could have brought up, but they're not, to me, it's not necessary to bring those up because I think those will self-correct. Like, for instance, Terry, his lack of involvement. We had these same conversations last year. It corrected itself in week 3. I'm hoping the same can be said this year in week 3. We could talk about the lack of explosive plays by this offense. That corrected itself in week 3 last year. So I don't need to bring those things up. Those are concerns as well. These are the ones that, to me, were the biggest, if you will. Tyreek Stroman, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Lou, I believe you when you say you're not worried, but it doesn't sound like you're not worried. I'm not worried. Again, am I supposed to be smiling when I talk about concerns for this team? Am I supposed to be like, oh man, John Bates' injury has me concerned? You ever seen the Dave Chappelle special when he talks about the KKK being outside of his door when he's calling 911? He's like, you don't call 911 all happy and chipper. Hey, 911, how are you? Yeah, there are a bunch of hooded guys outside of my house, and they mean business. What am I supposed to be, smiling and excited? Of course, they're concerns. I am worried about these concerns. I'm not worried about the team overall, but I am worried about these individual aspects of the team. Because if too many of these concerns continue to compound, eventually they affect the entire operation and the entire team, right? Which is why you want to get out in front of these. This is why DQ talks about Tell the Truth Monday. Guess what? You tell the truth even after a win. You know why? Because all of it isn't good. Even after a victory. We had these conversations after week 1 against the Giants. You know why? Because everything wasn't good, Tyreek. Everything wasn't good. You won the game, but it wasn't impressive. We left a lot out on the field. We could have been better. And then look what happened in week 2. You can't fall into the trap of thinking, oh, we won, we're good. Oh, we're 1-1. We could be 0-2. Yeah, we could be. But let's not get to the point where we're having conversations about being sub 500. Let's talk about these concerns now, and let's hope they get rectified before we even have to have conversations about this, that, or the third, right? Trust me, I'm not worried about this team, but I am worried about these concerns. I am worried about these concerns, all right? Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Door Gunner, writes, the kicking situation is pissing me off. I wanted to retire, and here I am having to keep my kicking leg warm and limber. Get it together, Gay. Yeah, I thought we were able to put you on the shelf as well. But it seems like you might have to stay warming up in the bullpen, my friend. You got your kicking net still, right? Hey, keep that leg warm. I think we all just want resolution to the kicking situation. I can't tell you how envious I am watching teams around the league like Jacksonville with Cam Little, who made the 70-yarder in preseason, and some of these teams that are just so comfortable trotting their kicker out there from 58 and 60, and it's no problem, right? And, here we are. I'm watching the Texans and Ka'imi Fairbairn, and he can make a 60-yard field goal. I've watched him make 58-yarders to win games and shit like that. And you just look at all these kickers around the league, and you're like, we've got to be in one of the bottom 5 kicking positions in the league. Like the Browns might be the worst. I think the Browns, like every year, they seem to be in the same position that we are in. But they suck and we suck. I think we got the 2 worst kicking, situations in the entire league. Us and the Browns do. And not that some of these other teams, like I don't love Cairo Santos. I'm not envious of the Bears. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna need a kicker eventually. He stinks to me. Extremely accurate from short distances. He's like Sean Sweezum. Don't ask him to kick a 52-yard field goal because now he's got to kick with all his might. And that's when accuracy starts to come into play. Like these kickers nowadays, they're just swinging the leg, bro. It's just a simple swing, and the shit's just exploding off their foot, and it's 55, and there's another 8 yards of distance on that thing if need be. I mean, you got guys kicking 56-yarders, and the shit's like 2/3 up the way of the net. Keep in mind, the net's like 6-7 yards behind the goalpost. Like, the shit's insane. Meanwhile, our guy, is missing and it's not close. And even when he does get it there, it's not hitting the net from 52, right? Or 53. So yeah, I'm envious, man. I'm just looking around the league and I'm like, this sucks. It really does. Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, someone get Rocky McIntosh on the phone. LOL. So this is where we're at now that we're working out Preston Smith. Rocky McIntosh was around in the 2000s, the early 2000s. Like at least Preston Smith was closer to the 2020s, right? He was in the 20 teens going towards the 2020s. I think Preston Smith's last year here was probably 2018. I had to guess. I think he was a part of the 2014 draft class. He wasn't a first round pick. So 14, 15, 16, 17 would have been his last year here. I think that's accurate. I think he went to Green Bay in 2018. I remember Jay Gruden being pretty pissed off that they didn't re-sign him. So Rocky's a little extreme, man. Rocky McIntosh. That's a nice name from the past, though. That's a good blast from the past. Rocky McIntosh. You guys kill me. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, Lou, biggest problem is that the Packers game took aspirations from possible Super Bowl to wild card. Roster getting beat up, lack of speed, bad coaching management, another offseason. So, okay, let's talk about it. Because you're not necessarily wrong for some people. My aspirations haven't changed, but I get why it could have done that for you. This is what I caution against, okay? Yeah, the roster's getting beat up. Pretty good, okay? We're not the only team in the league, all right? A lot of people want to attribute it to the age. Okay, fine. And look, a number of these guys that are getting injured are older players, so I get that. But it's just the nature of the beast in the NFL. Guys get injured. Kalijah Kancey tore his pec last night. He's not an older player. It's football. Shit happens, okay? He's done for the season, all right? Khalil Mack's season is probably done, right? Had nothing to do with his age. It's football. Shit happens. But lack of speed, okay, that exists still. We can be a faster team. I think where that's going to show up for us the most defensively is at linebacker. I talked about it last year. I'm going to continue to talk about it this year. The lack of speed at linebacker. And again, we have guys that can run. They just got to find the field. Jordan McGee and Kay Madrano are here because they can run. Kane Madrano is here specifically because he can cover. We need more speed on defense, especially covering guys up the seam. I watched Derwin James break up a pass that turned into an interception on Monday night. I'm watching Azeez Al-Shire, a guy that I wanted in free agency 2-3 years ago, running all the way 35 yards down the field with Emeka Egbuka. Should have had a pick. I'm watching the Eagles' first-round pick out of Alabama, Jahad Campbell, up the seam. Beautiful play. We don't have the ability to do that right now if it's not someone that isn't currently getting reps, and they're not taking either one of the all-pro linebackers from a season ago off the field. They're just not doing that. Bad coaching management. It's been rough. They'll get better. I'm not tripping. That hasn't changed my mindset. If this is a continued problem, we're having the same conversation in week 7 or 8. Okay, different set of circumstances. It's week 2. They'll correct this. They do a really good job of self-scouting in Washington. They showed that to us last year. I expect them to come out much better, sharper, better attention to detail. I'm not really too concerned about that. I liken the game against Green Bay to the one that we had last year against Tampa, in that we were a much different team than we were in week 1 when we saw Tampa, when we met them in the wild card. I surmise that if we get far enough to meet Green Bay again, we will be a much better, sharper football team. We can't make it that far if we're not. So we'll get better. SDQ always says, your week 1 team shouldn't beat your week 5 team. Your week 5 team shouldn't beat your week 9 team. Your week 9 team shouldn't beat your week 13 team. And our week 13 team shouldn't beat our week 17 team. We're in week 3 now. We're going into week 3. We're figuring things out. So I understand the conversation about where we rank. Like, oh, we're not on Green Bay's level. No, we're not right now. We're not right now. But maybe a month from now, 2 months from now, maybe we are on Green Bay's level. Maybe we are a different team. Maybe we are a well-oiled machine. Maybe we figured it out. Maybe we won't. We'll see. All right. Joshua Farish, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Joshua Farish writes, do you remember the days we were wondering in the quarterback wilderness? Never would have thought I would have to imagine that we entered a different wilderness for kickers. We wandered in that quarterback wilderness for so long. We really, truly did. We've been in that same forest for kickers. It's just been overshadowed by the fact that we needed a quarterback. Now, I will say, we've had spells where we held on to a guy, right? We've done that song and dance at least 3 or 4 times over this, let's call it like a 20-year span of not having a legitimate kicker. We haven't had a legitimate kicker probably since John Hall. Like, who are we kidding? When's the last time we had a reliable kicker that you trusted? You probably got to go all the way back to John Hall. Seriously. Every kicker that has had success in the league that started in Washington, we can't have revisionist history. Like, you see Graham Gano being really good. Graham Gano was inconsistent as hell. We hung on to Graham Gano for as long as we could, but he kept missing kicks. He kept missing kicks. And I was a massive Graham Gano fan, but he kept missing kicks. So we can't act like, man, we had Graham Gano, we had Sean Sweezum, we had, D-Hop, who went on to be a Pro Bowl kicker, 2 years ago for Cleveland? He's no longer in Cleveland. Why? Because he's D-Hop. Eventually, he's going to reveal his true self. And if I'm not mistaken, D-Hop isn't on an NFL roster right now. So, Gano was here for 3 years. D-Hop was here for 4 years, 3-4 years. We've had guys stay here for multiple years. It just didn't work. The whole time those guys were here, we were always looking for better. Always. So we've always been in the wilderness, so to speak. It's bad now, though. Really, what year was it where we had Chris Blewett and Brian Johnson and all those bums in the same year? Was that 21? I feel like it was 21. Really, we've been on this roller coaster since that time frame, whatever year that was. I feel like it was 2021. Because even when we had Joey Sly for those 2 years, we weren't content with Joey Sly. Joey had his moments, but Joey was just as good for a 58-yard field goal make as he was for a 37-yard field goal miss. Like, I can't have that kind of incompetence. So yeah, we're still searching, and the part that sucks is John Parker Romo. That's the one I can't get over this shit, man. He was right there. He played against us. He kicked against us. They drafted Andres Bergales. We knew he wasn't going to make the roster. And because we already locked ourselves into Matt Gay, we did nothing. That man made a 61-yard field goal, I think it was, against us. If it was 60, 61, something along those lines against us in the preseason game. 59, something like that. When we all went, damn. Serial kicker? Really? Kevin Bailey. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Kevin Bailey writes, I'm with you, door gunner. Where's Duncan Penderhughes when you need him? Good one. Good one. He could be our secret weapon. Class, work that body. Work that body. Have him lining up the kick. What do you do? The little shimmy before he kick, right? We could use Duncan Penderhughes right now, man. Jeez Louise. Just Andre. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I was jealous of the Texans' defensive speed. As you should be. But they have zero weaknesses on their defense. They can rush the quarterback from all four positions on the defense, the defensive line, right? Sheldon Rankins, you got the two ends. And look, they spent money on Danielle Hunter. They spent a first-round draft pick on Will Anderson. They spent some solid money on Sheldon Rankins. They spent draft capital on Henry, who I absolutely loved. Everybody knows that I loved Henry To'oTo'o out of Alabama when he was coming. I loved him probably as a sophomore at Bama. He was flying around. They spent money on Azeez Al-Shire in free agency. So they got speed all over the place at linebacker. And then, like, they let Blake Cashman leave because they had Henry To'oTo'o. And Blake Cashman's a stud for the Vikings. He's injured right now, but he's a stud for the Vikings. And then, the second, they got the best secondary in football. So, yeah, they fly around, man. They fly around. We're a long ways from that. We're a long ways from that. I don't know if we'll ever be that, to be honest with you. Like, you're asking a lot. You're asking a lot. Lorenzo Simpson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Keep in mind, they hit on Lassiter, just to go back. That second-round pick out of Georgia at the cornerback position. I think they got the best corner in football in Derek Stingley Jr. On the other side, they hit on Kalen Bullocks at the safety position. I think that's a third-round pick out of SC at the safety position. And then C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you say what you want about him. Yeah, he's a head case. He's an absolute lunatic. The man can play football, and he flies around and he hits. That's why I think the Eagles are going to miss him. I know Makuba is playing well. He ain't C.J. Gardner-Johnson, though. I think they're going to miss. Like, I ain't never seen C.J. Gardner-Johnson get run over by a quarterback. Makuba got trucked by Patrick Mahomes, just like our guy got trucked by Jordan Love. But I digress. That Texans defense flies around. You're not wrong. Lorenzo Simpson, my guy Zoe. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, list 5, Matt Gay. 4, Josh Connolly Jr. 3, Cliff Kingsbury's play calling, no balance. 2, regression of Louie, and 1, Wagner in coverage. All right, so let's talk about it. I've already stated how I feel about Matt Gay. I think he's way too low on your list, but your list is your list, right? Connolly Jr., I think we're kind of on the same wavelength. Concerned, but not as concerned, right? Come back to me in about 2 months and ask me how I feel about Connolly Jr., and I'll have a better assessment of where he is and what I think of him, right? And if I'm truly concerned or not. Cliff Kingsbury's play calling, no balance. I can't commit to that because that was Thursday night behavior. We ran the ball 32 times in week 1. We ran the ball more than we threw it in week 1. So I can't commit to no balance from Cliff. I can't do that. Not after 2 weeks. 2, the regression of Louie. That is definitely something that I could have brought up today. Like, I didn't want to bring up every issue. That is definitely one that could have been on the list of issues and concerns, rather. That definitely could be on the list of concerns. I hate the clip that's going around social media. You've seen the one where he gets, literally Mack trucked, mowed over by Josh Jacobs on the way to the end zone. He's getting held by the offensive lineman. That's why he can't get his arm up, and he gets plastered on that play. That's not a fair representation of who he is or what he's about. That's not fair. But he hasn't been impactful at all. Now, I've given you the reason why I think that is. That's why I think this 10-day layoff is important, because it gives everybody a chance to go back to the drawing board and figure out some shit, including Joe Witt Jr. Like, he's got to find a better way. We got to play man match. Like, we can't be out here running around, having our corners chasing guys around the field. And like, we got to find a better way to utilize these guys that we think can play man coverage. The Packers exposed a weakness. Hey, let's just run these dudes all around the earth, see if they can keep up. Let's not have to do that, right? Also, Joe Witt Jr. needs to figure out a way to unleash Frankie Louie. Frankie's at his best when he's being used the way he was last year, and because Joe Witt Jr. has more, toys to play with, so to speak, this year with the defensive line and all the things they're doing up there, it's come at the expense of Frankie Louie. You can't have Frankie Louie mugging the A-gap and blitzing up the A-gap if you got all these twists and these stunts being run, and he's a part of that. He's sacrificing himself for the greater good of the defensive line. That's why you haven't seen him. Last year, everybody rushed. Frankie mugs the A-gap, takes advantage of a helpless running back, or comes scot-free and gets to the quarterback. Frankie off the edge, allowed to rush, doesn't have to worry about twisting and stunting and setting somebody else up or any of that. He just got to rush. He's not getting a ton of those opportunities right now. It's a lot of games being run up front, and he's a part of them. He's picking for the defensive tackle, or the defensive tackle is picking for him. But then that guard or that center is coming off. Somebody else comes scot-free, but Frankie's not. And he's sacrificing himself. I just think we got to let Frankie be Frankie. Joe Witt Jr. has to figure out a better way to utilize him. Like, when they mugged the A-gap with him and Bobby, when we had the Packers backed up at their own goal line on a 3rd down, Frankie came free and flushed Jordan Love and forced him to throw it away. That's the Frankie that we know. That's the Frankie we saw last year. But he hasn't had a ton of those opportunities this year. So they got to find ways to get Frankie more involved. I think that's what you find over these 10 days that they've had off, right? And then Wagner in coverage. It is the job of the defensive coordinator to minimize. Look, it's going to be impossible to keep Wagner out of coverage. I was scared to death last year when I saw him one-on-one with Saquon Barkley up the sideline. I was like, oh, shit, it's the touchdown. Luckily enough for us, Kenny Pickett underthrew the football. Saquon had to try to dive for it, and he couldn't corral it. Bobby Wagner got smoked in the preseason in the joint practice against the Patriots by Travion Henderson on a wheel route up the sideline, but he dropped it. We saw him trying to run up the seam with the tight end. He's pointing at somebody like, hey, somebody get him. Probably was his man. At the end of the day, we know his age. We know his limitations. I don't hold those things against him. We knew what we were signing up for when we signed Bobby Wagner last year. We re-signed Bobby Wagner. We knew what we were signing up for when we re-signed him. It is not Bobby Wagner's job to worry about covering someone in space. It is Bobby Wagner's job to play the defense as it's called. It is Joe Witt Jr.'s responsibility to keep Bobby Wagner out of situations where he has to carry a receiver up the field, whether that's a running back or a tight end. There shouldn't be a lot of Bobby Wagner carrying a route up the seam, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I like my Bobby and my Frankie. I like my screw loose oos down by the line of scrimmage, pressuring the line of scrimmage. Whatever that looks like. Whether that's a double A-gap blitz, that's Bobby being aggressive, attacking the line of scrimmage, tackle for loss. Frankie, same thing. I want those guys down around the line of scrimmage. The further they get away from the line of scrimmage, the less effective both of them are. Anyhow, that was the final comment. And that is going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post Live. You know what it is. I'm going to give a big shout out really quickly to Sleeper for sponsoring this stream. Check down in the description of this video and every single video that I do, where you will find a link. Click that link. Use the promo code. Oh, excuse me. That's not the one I wanted to use. Let me pull up mine real quick. Let's see. Here we go. So use my promo code LTN to get you 100% match deposit on up to $100 deposit. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I've been having so much fun with the Sleeper app and all the things that you can do on that app. And it doesn't cost a lot. I think that's the thing that I've had the most fun with, is it doesn't cost you a ton to be able to win some money. It costs you $10. With all those multipliers and the different things that factor in, they have promos for first-time users. There's so many ways that you can stack these things. You can win 1,000 times your money. Now, a lot of things would have to, fall into place for that to happen. But Sleeper has been so much fun. And if you haven't already downloaded the app, do yourself a favor. Click the link in the description. Download the app. Use the promo code LTN to get you 100% deposit match on a deposit up to $100. You put in $100, they'll give you an additional $100 to use on the Sleeper app. So you can go get the money, go get the money, go get the money, go get the money, and turn every day into payday. One of the best and most safe and fastest withdrawal processes I've ever seen of any of these types of apps. Shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring this stream. You guys, have a good one. Take care. Oh, I got one more comment here from William Rogers Jr., who's been a member for 37 months. Salute to my guy, William Rogers Jr., who writes, time for the young linebackers to see the field to cover tight ends. They have to make themselves available to the staff, meaning they have to make the staff comfortable enough to put them on the field. If I can't trust you to do things without making a mistake, if I can't trust you to be on the field and be where you're supposed to be, like 10 guys can't be doing what they're supposed to do. And because you're young and you don't know where to be, or you make a mistake, you cost the entire defense. You can accept that from a veteran more so than you can a rookie, right? Because in your mind, this is the tricks that you play with your mind will play on you. If I got all these veterans out here, everybody's going to do what they're supposed to do. I don't got to worry about that. I don't got to worry about Bobby Wagner blowing coverage. He might not be able to get there, but he ain't going to blow coverage. Everybody else did what they were supposed to do in perfect position, and K. Madrano blows coverage. Eyes in the wrong place. They had some ghost motion. His eyes are back there. He loses his luggage, and it's a big gain, and everybody else was in perfect position. And pressure got there. But because Kane didn't do what he was supposed to do, there was somewhere for the quarterback to go with the football. That's the shit you tell yourself. I can't afford to do that. They got to prove Jordan McGee as well. He's healthy now. The man played 4 snaps against Green Bay. 4. Like, he's got to prove to them that, hey, you can put me on the field. You can trust me. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how you get that done at this point, because now we passed the point of proving to the staff I'm worthy of getting on the field. Because they worried about putting a game plan together and maximizing the guys that are already on the field. So, I don't know. It's tough, but I would love to see the young guy. Not necessarily K. Madrano right now, because I told y'all when he got drafted, he's this year's what was the safety we drafted and converted to linebacker from Washington? I can't think of his name, but I was like, he's this year's that guy where he's not going to be active very many weeks. He'll make the roster because he's a draft pick, but he's not making them. He's not going to be active on game day very often. Jordan McGee's the one I'm looking at and saying, hey, man, it's time, bro. It's time. That's the one I'm looking at. It's time. So, anyway, I digress. Y'all get out of here. Hopefully, we'll see you guys later for Commanders Kings. Hopefully it goes down the way it's supposed to. But if not, we'll figure out a time that's conducive for everyone if we can't do it tonight. But hopefully you'll see the Kings tonight. We got a ton to talk about, obviously. But in any event, you guys have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your evening. God bless. Good night.